One word, 4 letters. Yeah.
I'm not a Becky guy. I never had been a Becky guy. Like, when Becky was doing her big thing back in the day, the man, she broke her nose. To me, she was just trying to beat Conor McGregor.
If it does, I honestly wouldn't be surprised because, like Chris said, WWE has a history of making us all sad. Those aren't the words he said, but that's what I heard.
The women's division has a big problem. The women's division, all the veterans, they're kind of stagnant. Like, they're in the polar opposite direction that the men's veterans are in.
And I hate this. I feel like I should be the one balancing you guys. I feel like Tyler's, down here, Dan, you're up here. But I'm like, I can't be that balance in the middle tonight. And what I've noticed about wrestling as of late, I have nightmares and then it happens the next week.
Welcome to Left Turns, Red Hooks. I'm your host, Dan Lindsay. It's episode number 21, and we're just taking a focus on WWE this week as the Money in the Bank PLE is this weekend. Now, I feel this PLE has started to grow more and more every year. One of the biggest spectacles of the year, this ladder matches thrown around the ring by men and women. And it's just a fun gimmick, I feel. I'm glad it has its own PLE. I'm glad it's not just a specific match anymore. It's got its own PLE, and we've got 4 really, really good matches, I feel, on this weekend's Money in the Bank. And I know that's not really a popular take. 2 excellent ladder matches, obviously. The tag match should be a barn burner. And then we got Becky and Lyra facing off for the IC title once again. So we've got picks, we've got predictions, and when I say we, it's the whole crew. Joe, Tyler, and Chris all join me. You've seen them before, we get them again. So we have a bunch of thoughts for you, some takes for you. I hope you can sit back and enjoy this podcast. Let's get into those picks and predictions for this weekend's Money in the Bank. Okay, it's time to welcome back into the episode my version of the Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman group. I've got Chris, Tyler, and Joe along with me here. We're back on the prediction train this week on the Money in the Bank PLE. It's part of a busy WWE weekend, and we've got our picks, a lot of stuff that we want to go over. So Chris, Tyler, Joe, thanks for coming back on the pod. Really excited to have you guys a part of this and can't wait to get into all of our topics. So welcome back.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us, Dan. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, glad to have you guys on. Glad to have you guys on. We are recording this basically after Raw has ended. And so we're going to get right into the men's Money in the Bank match. CM Punk, AJ Styles, El Grande Americano were the last qualifier. I think we all kind of thought, well, I personally thought Punk was going to pretty much be a lock for the Money in the Bank because I felt, hey, that'd be a great way to get Punk into a match with John Cena when it's the Money in the Bank cash-in, right? So, well, if you've now heard the news about Raw, Punk did not win the match. They went with a coffee drink winning this match. Shout out to Tyler for saying that while we were watching the match. It's just hard. We'll get into that a little bit, but our men's Money in the Bank field is the coffee drink, Penta, LA Knight, Seth Rollins, Solo, and Andrade. Another surprise, actually, too. They made us think we were going to get Jacob Fatu in this match. But we got Andrade instead. I'm not complaining about Andrade being in the match, but we get to miss out on Jacob Fatu. So, first question I actually have for you guys. We'll go through each of you here. Anybody you guys wish was actually in the men's Money in the Bank match that's not in that match? Chris, I'll start with you on anybody you wish was in this match that's not in the match.
Yeah, I kind of gave it some thought. I mean, it's a little hard for me to say. I was kind of going over the Raw roster and like who I would like to see on TV more opportunities, and for who's in the match and who's doing stuff and who's booked. I couldn't really think of terribly much, so I'm going to probably carry Cross here just because I like him. Give him something to do. Especially in that level of match here. TV time. I'd probably say him, but it's a little bit hard to roster for me right now. I feel like the ones who I want to be in the match are, well, opposed from tonight. The ones who I want to be in the match are just kind of in them. So I'm happy with it. Just not tonight's results, but it is what it is.
Yeah. Well, and we can, we'll get into that as we pick our winner here. Joe, I'll come to you here. Anybody that you kind of wish was in on the Money in the Bank ladder match for the men that's not in the match?
Yeah. First of all, thanks for having me again. Always a pleasure to hop on the pod with you wrestling savants. So my first, I'm kind of in the same boat as Chris, where it's hard to pick out like a specific name from the roster of someone, that you would want to see in there. My first thought about it is seemingly, if you look at the names of the men that are in it, there aren't a lot of like A tier guys, like guys that you can just easily see the belt go on. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, right? Like Rollins is really the only name on there that's a main event caliber, living room name type thing. But that's sort of the beauty of Money in the Bank, right? Like you do want to kind of see guys that aren't at that level go to that level, like what it used to be, the original. It was like the OG CM Punks, the MVPs, Matt Hardys, guys like that. So that makes it interesting. I would, so on that front, I would have liked to seen a little bit more main event guys, solely for the fact that it makes it harder to predict who's going to win. With Seth being the only main event guy, it makes him the heavy favorite going into it. Whether that's on purpose, who knows? But if you threw in Orton or McIntyre or guys like that, it would have at least made your brain kind of think about it a little bit more. You're like, well, he could win it, but now with this setup they have, frankly, it's either Rollins or bust, because the other 5 are guys that have never even sniffed the main event scene, really. So it'll be a first for them, but no specific name stands out. I mean, it'll be a great match. The names are great. They're certainly not D tier guys, C tier guys, but they're guys that it's just, hard to picture them just getting the belt,
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you that there. And Chris and Tyler definitely will want you guys weigh in on that too later. But I remember Tyler saying when we were watching the match, like Punk not being in the match kind of almost makes it harder. And I don't know if that's what Tyler meant with that. It's like because you got Seth and everybody else. That's kind of where my first kind of thought went to as soon as you said that, Joe. But yeah, Tyler, I'll toss it to you to weigh in here and who you wish was in the match as well. And everybody froze. Tyler, I'll toss it to you. I'm going to start back tossing it back to Tyler here. Everybody kind of froze at the same time. Tyler, I'll toss it back to you on trying to, figure out who maybe you wish was in the match that's not in the match. And we'll go from there. But that was my kind of first thought from Joe of when he said that. It was kind of what you said at the end of watching the last qualifier that, it's Rollins and everybody else.
Well, truth be told, I said that as more of a gag, because apparently now I just have to go with El Grande Americano in every match he's in, because he has basically a 100% win percentage at this point. So I mean, he literally never loses. He's booked more strongly than any luchador in history, and he's not even a luchador. So it's pretty impressive. So that was really mainly, it was just a running gag. But all seriousness, there are a couple of guys that I do wish were in this match, but weirdly, nobody that I would replace either. No, necessarily. Well, except for the coffee drink. But it's a whole nother thing. So there's a few. Chris already named one. Karrion Kross was probably the first one that popped into my head. He was kind of an early Cinderella darling pick to win this after WrestleMania, and for a lot of good reasons. Obviously, people want to see him booked more strongly or just booked at all, other than on main event, which is fine. The one that I did in my booking that obviously Dan and I did together on his channel. Obviously, if you haven't seen that, go see it, ladies and gentlemen at home. My pick was Finn Balor to win Money in the Bank, and I think Finn Balor. I think actually the story would have made sense based on where it's going. Like if he were to win Money in the Bank, I actually think that would further divide the Judgment Day than what it already is. And I think that would help accelerate things because at this point you've teased the Judgment Day breaking up for
2 years,
at least 30 years right now, somewhere in that range. So it's been a while. And then the one that is more just this guy would have never won it, but it would have been really cool because there's always that one guy that does all the cool stuff. Is boy howdy would I wanted to see Ray Phoenix in a Money in the Bank ladder match. I mean, the stuff that guy can do balance wise and everything on the ropes with ladders, I think it would have just been so much fun to see him working a Money in the Bank ladder match, and also maybe even have a spot where him and Penta get in the ring together and have a little tussle and go at it for a second. I just think it would have been fun, but alas. We did not get that. I will say, side note, nobody here said Carmelo Hayes, and that actually kind of surprises me because there has been a lot of discourse online about how badly Carmelo Hayes is being booked and how it's completely ridiculous at how poorly he's being booked. And a lot of people have brought race into account where they're thinking that he's not booked this strong because of race. And we can think whatever we want about those kinds of allegations all the live long day. We can have conversations about it on, off air, doesn't matter. But I'm just a little surprised that Carmelo Hayes was not mentioned here. Now, I will say, Dan, you know this better than maybe Joe or Chris have. I have never been on the Carmelo Hayes hype train all the way since he, in 2021, I'm pretty sure is when he won the title, maybe 2022. I was never really a big Carmelo Hayes guy. I always kind of thought that he was booked a little stronger than the performances that he put off. He's great in the ring, obviously. I'm not taking away from his talent as a wrestler, but just his promo work never really got me. The character stuff, it never just really, it felt like it didn't really resonate that much with me personally. Again, this is not taking away from his talent or ability here. This is just my personal thing. And Dan knows, again, I'm the NXT guy. Like, I way overhype everybody from NXT. Carmelo Hayes was one of the very few exceptions that were booked super strong in NXT that I was like, I'm kind of concerned for him when he gets called up because I just don't see where he fits in. And unfortunately, right now, I think I'm being, at least so far, I'm being proven more right than I have been wrong based on the performances that he's put out and then what he's been given. But again, that's a little sidebar. I'm a little surprised nobody said Carmelo Hayes. That's all.
Yeah, honestly, we should have thought of him. I definitely bring him up on a lot of things just because he's kind of there. But I feel like our SmackDown roster has been filled out a little bit more, so it's not like the easy, go-to for a lot of things. And honestly, the other guy of the recent Carmelo Hayes feud, Aleister Black, I'm a little surprised I didn't try to put him in this match right away as well. I'm definitely on the train with you guys on Karrion as well there, and honestly, I have a big spot for Fatu. Might be my favorite wrestler, if not one of my if he's not one of my favorite wrestlers, might be my favorite. So he's a lot of favorites over here, so that's hard to choose. But still, Jacob's just excellent at what he does. Let's go back through everybody here again. I want to hear everybody's winner to pick this. Joe, I'll put you on the spot first here. Who do you pick to win the men's Money in the Bank briefcase?
So I'll categorize it in two ways. One is who I wish would win, like for my own, just like to see him win. It might be a bit of an odd answer, and it might be a year, 2 years, 3 years too late, but I'm always pushing for LA Knight. Part of me always thinks that he sadly already peaked, and he's just a weird one because you talk about roller coasters of being pushed, not being pushed, getting pops, not getting pops. It's pretty much LA Knight. He's not getting any younger. It makes you think it's almost it's unfortunate that he's in this WWE run in the midst of a roster where there's so much talent. If this was like 2011, 12, 13, he would be a top 3 guy just by nature of the roster around him. So he's kind of a victim to just a really popular roster. And he might only be peaking at that Intercontinental United States title level, which is cool. But, a year ago, 2 years ago, he was getting the biggest pop of anybody, and they never really did much with it. But so nonetheless, always rooting for him. Who I actually think is going to win. I guess it's cliche at this point to some degree. Seth makes the most sense. He's got a whole posse with him. It'd be the most heel thing ever if all 3 of them help him. It'd be the most obvious, kind of. But it'd also make the most sense for the storyline. You have this new heel faction. You're trying to push him even further. You have him win the title because you don't know how long Jay's going to hold on to it. You assume he's going after the world title. It would shake things up if he went after the WWE title. You kind of thrust him into a Cena rivalry there. So a lot of different ways they can go with Seth nonetheless. It'd be cool if he doesn't win, but another group of faces kind of combat his faction to even the playing fields. But then it gets messy, right? You have 3 guys helping one, then another 3 guys come in. Next thing you know, there's like 11 guys involved in the match. So those 2 make the most sense. It's hard for me to believe that Gable's going to win. I keep saying Gable, his alter ego. But it's just, there's the Money in the Bank's interesting, right? It really is a moment where anyone can win. It elevates people almost instantly, whether you win or lose. But in this year specifically, they just don't have a need to elevate talent because they already have a plethora of talent. So it might be a throwaway year, kind of like what McIntyre's was. It'd be unfortunate if you have 2 years in a row of just a throwaway Money in the Bank, but I'm going to go Seth.
Yeah, no, I feel you there with the LA Knight, popularity, or lack thereof, the waves, I definitely feel you on that one. I think he's, it comes down to just like who can you see, like you said earlier, who can you see competing for the title the most? I feel like Andrade is a little bit of a, kind of a fan favorite. Knight is obviously that fan favorite. Penta's a new fan favorite. But it's just I don't want, as long as they don't go with El Grande Americano, please. That's just all I ask for it now. Please don't make that the plan. I hope it's not, and now I'm afraid it is because he won the last qualifying match. I don't know. I'm going an interesting direction here though, and I'm actually going to pick Solo. I was completely prepared to pick Punk because I was like, he's going to win this qualifier tonight. So no, I had to do a last minute scramble, but I'm going with Solo. I think Rollins is almost too obvious. I wouldn't be shocked if he won it, but I feel like Solo is in a position to where if you have him attempt to cash in and he loses, I don't think that really makes his character crumble. I feel like if you couple these guys, I don't think anybody else you could put the briefcase on and have them fail at a cash in and they crumble. I think I feel like Solo's in that trying to rebuild his image type of way, that I feel like Solo could lose a cash in. And if you do it the right way, it's fine. I could see him cashing in on Cena just because he's like, hey, I beat this guy before, I cashed in on him. I don't know. I'm probably completely off here. I know that, but I'm gonna go with Solo because my guy that I wanted to pick didn't even qualify, and Karrion either. Punk and Karrion. I was hoping for one or both of them in this, and it didn't happen. So I'm gonna go Solo. Chris, I'll toss it for you. Who's your pick for the men's Money in the Bank here?
Well, much like you, Dan, I would have said Punk. But I'm kind of, looking at the list and I'm going off of who I think could possibly be in that, position to obviously be in that, the title picture. And when I'm looking at all these guys, I don't see them playing a part in Cena's story. unless Cena was to lose that belt and then like the final half of the story is, beltless. But I don't see them actually like dethroning Cena. I feel like this is all completely like Jay's thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I actually kind of agree with you to the sense of like Solo, you could play into the whole, old bloodline story. It could give that, validity to it. I don't really see Andrade. I don't. I wish I did because I'd find it really fun in the ring, but
Yes.
I just don't see that. I think this match we're going to see Rollins, obviously with his team coming out to save him, Breaker and all that. But I would argue that it's probably just going to have the good old faces, Sammy and whatnot, running out to stop him. Maybe like it's a generic pick. I feel like if I were to bet money on it, I probably would bet Rollins here, but I could also very much see the opposite of what we saw tonight with Punk, obviously, about to win it, and then I can very much see the opposite there. And I feel like with tonight it sets puts the seeds down for Money in the Bank. LA Knight is one that interests me because it is one of those things where it is a few years late. I'm not gonna lie, it is a few years late. But I would argue that it's not necessarily a terrible decision either. I mean, he's still LA Knight, get him going. But I would argue it's like you probably should have done before. And how would that run even look now?
Mm-hmm.
Rise and fall of popularity and all that. I think he can make it work. I just don't really see at this age and at this point in his career, I don't really know if I see that. And then I just don't see Penta winning at all. Unfortunately, I don't like. I can't even make an argument for how he can win this because I just don't think he will. But then here is the funny thing: we got El Grande Americano. He don't lose, like Tyler said. He don't lose, and you could totally go with the most troll pick here, which WWE has a history of doing, and just have El Grande Americano win. You could, and you could also just totally have him cash in on Jay and then win. That probably won't happen, but it'd be kind of funny.
You just want to watch the world burn.
Yeah, it's watching the world burn. And you know what? The crazier stuff has happened in wrestling. So I'm like,
yeah,
with this run he's on right now, I don't see it personally, but like, I also didn't see tonight happening, and it could just be recency bias, and I'm in shock, probably shock.
Yes,
but it's on my mind. But if I had to bet, it's a basic pick. It's Rollins. But if I had to make a second bet, I think I might go Solo. I could see them doing that Solo storyline with Jay, replaying it. I don't know if he'd actually win the belt, but I could see them doing that storyline, or at least dragging that storyline out for a bit. Putting the seeds where he's like watching him, or giving Solo something to do, I guess, apart from just like where he's at right now. But yeah, put it in a nutshell, I'm probably gonna bet Rollins here, but if it's not Rollins, then I see Solo.
Gotcha. All right, interesting. And I like that you actually mentioned the bloodline connection. I didn't even make that connection. I was thinking just Cena, but yeah, I think that's a great connection there. So Tyler, your last person to pick, who you taking for the men's Money in the Bank briefcase?
So I think the El Grande Americano thing scares me, but there is a way out of that. I think the easy way is Phoenix gets in the way, or LWO and Phoenix, or just a combination of some of the luchadors finally get a hold of El Grande Americano and stop him, right? So I think you can take that way out. And plus, I think that may get your Phoenix and Penta in the same ring at the same time moment kind of thing. So I'm going to leave that over here. I don't think that's the way it's going to go. If it does, I honestly wouldn't be surprised because, like Chris said, WWE has a history of making us all sad. Those aren't the words he said, but that's what I heard. So to me, I think the Solo thing, I got to be honest. I don't think that's going to happen. I feel like he's got a different story that I think that this would just kind of muddy it a little bit. it's one thing if the Money in the Bank briefcase could further the story between him and Jacob Fatu, and it would if Jacob Fatu was not the United States champion, but rather if like Jacob was the WWE champion and then Solo won Money in the Bank, maybe then. But I mean, unless you're going to have another year where he cashes in or somebody cashes in on the U.S. title, like I don't really know how that would go. I think that story doesn't need it. I also think the Seth Rollins thing makes a lot of sense, but I'm going to pick one word, 4 letters. Yeah, I'm going LA Knight. And I think the reason I'm going LA Knight is because when I look at the landscape, I kind of touched on it. I'm looking at what stories can be furthered from having Money in the Bank and what wrestlers have stories that don't need Money in the Bank. I think we all said in some way, shape, or form the reason why Seth would not win the match, because he has all these other guys that are gunning for him at this point, trying to stop him from getting that kind of power. And I think for one night, they'll stop him. I think I just obviously talked about Solo and how that wouldn't necessarily make sense for him. Obviously, Andrade. I love Andrade more than most. He's not winning this match. Penta, obviously, he's probably the guy that's going to do all the cool stuff. That guy never wins the match, right? Shelton Benjamin, Kofi Kingston, they never won Money in the Bank. Ricochet, Evan Bourne, they never won Money in the Bank. They're just there to do the cool stuff. And then I already said El Grande Americano, please don't. And then, and so that leaves the one guy who doesn't really have a story right now, who could use Money in the Bank, and who I think could have a match against Jay or against Cena and have it be fun. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a Yeet versus Yeah in the promo battle?
Yeah,
and then what I just said, like, couldn't you just imagine LA Knight throwing that back in Jay's face with the Money in the Bank briefcase? At the end of the night, they're all everybody in the crowd is going to be chanting, "What do you say about it? What is it? Oh, right, 4 letters, 1 word. Yeah." Like I could definitely easily see LA Knight throwing that at Jay's face. And then you already have a story there from years ago with Cena and LA Knight. I don't even have to get into that. That's already there. And at this point with WWE, man, I've already wrapped my mind around the fact that I'm not going to get any of the stories that I want, that Cena's not going to push any new talent. He's not going to get in there with any of the younger guys to actually put them over. He's just going to go and wrestle all of his friends, and then he's going to leave, which that's his choice. He can do what he wants. But, at this point, he's probably just going to say, LA Knight, I liked working with him a couple years ago. Let's put him over. I think that makes sense. But my pick is going to be LA Knight. But I wouldn't be surprised if it's Seth. And the coffee drink.
The coffee drink
would be thrown in there.
Yeah, no, I think we're on the kind of that same boat of Seth. It's like wouldn't be surprised. It almost seems like too obvious to pick Seth though. So
yeah.
Let's move on to the actual title. One of the only title match on the card, unless somebody cashes in during the pay-per-view or PLE, whatever. We all know what I'm talking about here. The women's intercontinental title match. We got Becky Lynch versus Lyra Valkyria. We'll keep it kind of simple here. Just 2 questions. First, just right off the bat, who wins the match? And Tyler, I'll let you go first here. Who do you think wins this title match between Becky and Lyra?
I'm really worried that they're gonna have Becky win here. I feel like just for the sake of my own sanity, I'm going to pick Lyra because I have been very disappointed with just wrestling as a whole lately. It's been very upsetting how Cena's year has played out for me and just how everything's been booked after WrestleMania. And I think that goes without saying. Obviously, I've talked about it in your podcast, Dan, a couple times now. And I think I think given the fact that it's Becky Lynch can't challenge for the title unless Lyra loses the belt, I think that's your easy way to have Becky lose, and then that's the end of the feud.
Mm-hmm.
At this point, like, the only thing that Becky could gain from this is literally the notch on her belt that she has won this championship now. But you don't really need to do that, I think, at this point. I think the company's made a pretty easy stamp that Lyra is going to be a pretty big deal for the next handful of years here. And I just think that this win would set her back. And I also think that it would just kind of be a vortex of, okay, well, if Lyra loses, then she's going to want to challenge for the belt again. And then that's another match that the two are going to have. And then maybe Lyra loses again. And then really she's buried in the water and dead in the water. And then that's not good. But then maybe Lyra wins it back. And then, well, now Becky can challenge again because the stipulation that this time she can't challenge is gone. And then it's just an endless loop. And it just goes round and round and round until I assume the sun burns us all to a crisp in 5 billion years. So I'm going to go for the sake of my sanity, I'll go Lyra. But again, I'm worried that they're going to have Becky Lynch pull it off. And I wouldn't be surprised if any of you gentlemen pick Becky here.
I'm very curious what everybody else here thinks. Joe, I'll come to you next. Who wins this match between Lyra and Becky?
Yeah, I'm right there with Tyler. Becky's at a unique point in her career where, she's at that Cena level. She's at that Orton level. She's a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer, arguably the most iconic woman in all of pro wrestling since, a certain date, we'll say, 2017 or 18, right up there with Charlotte Flair. But having her win is like, okay, you have another title on your resume. And exactly to Tyler's point, it just sets back Lyra. It just has this smell of like, yeah, if Becky wins, you have this back and forth feud going, but you can still keep the feud going even if Becky loses, which is fine. Like, if you want to keep it going, God love you. But there's no reason why you need to take the belt off of her, and especially too, let's say this is the end of it. So like Lyra wins, you basically just kind of, it's a bad analogy, but you gave her Mick Foley, right? Orton got Mick Foley, Edge got Mick Foley. You give these young talents a mega star and they win the match and they win the rivalry, and then you move on. There's no need to just make it happen over and over and over. I think WWE has a problem with, it seems like every feud is long, which is good and bad, right? Like, not every feud needs to be this 4-month ordeal. You could have a feud in 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks even. It seems like AEW, just as a comparison, has a different mindset where they do rapid fire feuds. Obviously, WWE is known for their long-term storytelling under Triple H, which is great, but it doesn't need to be every single one of them. So, I would just like it for Becky to lose and move on to your next thing. Plus, she's not part-time. That's not the word I'm looking for. But she has a tendency to come back in spurts. So it'll be 4 months here, 4 months off, 4 months back. So you don't even know. She'll probably be gone until SummerSlam. They have a really good system going with developing talent so long as they actually effing win. So they just need to have her win and be done with it.
Yeah. All right, that's 2 for Lyra there. Chris, I'll come to you next. Are you on the Lyra train here for winning the match?
No, I'm going to stop the train. I completely agree with you guys, like, especially narratively speaking here. I'm going to be blunt. I probably said this on the podcast before. I'm not a Becky guy. I never have been a Becky guy. Like, when Becky was doing her big thing back in the day, the man, she broke her nose. To me, she was just trying to be Conor McGregor. I'm not saying that because she's Irish. I'm saying that because of her mannerisms. She was just trying to be Conor. And to me, as an MMA fan, found out to be really, really corny. And I just was never a fan of it. Some of her trash talk was like, whatever. And I feel like she was way too overbloated. Way, way too much. With that said, she's Becky. And I am terrified of her, and she's probably going to win this. And probably just going to have the story going because it's my worst nightmare. And what I've noticed about wrestling as of late, I have nightmares and then it happens the next week. So that's completely
That's so true.
that's completely my pick.
I must be like the only eternal optimist here. Maybe that's just, and that's probably not a good thing because I'm constantly disappointed, but I refuse to go down to the depths of Tyler over there. But anyway, I appreciate.
It's not a fun existence, Dan.
I'll keep the majority in Lyra's camp. I think just from the aspect of we've got some NXT call ups recently on Raw. We now have Stephanie and Roxanne. And I just think with some other players on the women's side of wrestling, I think it's better for the women's side as a whole for this to stay in Lyra. So that's why I'm picking Lyra. And just to kind of get to our next point here too, because I'm kind of curious what kind of could happen next for Becky. I see Becky losing. I wouldn't be surprised if Bayley helps Lyra. Make sure she retains here, and then you can grow out easily into a Bayley and Becky feud. Don't have to have a title around it. I don't know what you guys are. I'm gonna kind of rephrase the second question I sent to you guys. What just because we just have some different perspectives on who's winning the match here. So Chris, I'll come to you first. I guess if Becky makes your nightmare come true, what kind of feud do you see with her next?
Ooh, that's a good question. With Becky next,
yeah,
like I said, if my worst nightmares come true, we will be getting this feud until I stop watching wrestling. So, probably more of it. I don't really know. I don't know. I'm too pessimistic right now. It's like, what do I see? Will she fight one of the new girls? And it's just kind of like, cool, man. I just don't care for Becky Lynch. I'm sorry, I just don't.
Hey, that's fine. That's fine. Okay. Not every wrestler is everybody's cup of tea. So
she just every now and then she come up with a funny zinger for me, but yeah, it's been mostly on the Becky hate train on my end. But I don't know. Maybe she fights, one of the newer girls, with call ups. You kind of have that roster where it's blowing up more. You have more girls in there. Maybe that's a route, or maybe she takes the belt and she goes home.
She really is John Cena on the women's side.
I'm out of here. I'm good.
Yeah, because
put it in my refrigerator like Punk.
Yeah, I'm too pessimistic right now. We literally, not to recap what you said earlier, Dan, but we just got done with the episode of Raw, and after I laughed and cried, literally cried of laughter, over the finale, I'm now sitting here in depression.
I'm sorry. We're here to lift you back up, or at least I'm here to lift you back up. I don't know. I can only speak for the other two guys here, but Tyler, I'll come to you quickly. Who would if with Becky, if Becky were to lose here, what kind of a program would you put her in there? I guess or either we'll just say with Becky here.
Yeah, if Becky were to win, then I would assume we're getting another Lyra Becky match after this, and make it a trilogy.
Well, this is the third match between them, so.
Well, other than the one in NXT, I'm not counting that one. Is this their third one-on-one match since the main roster?
I believe so.
Jesus. Okay.
Unless someone can correct me.
I must have missed one, I guess.
Because this is a second PLE one, and they've had a one on a Raw, I think, as well.
That's right. You're right.
I think.
Okay. No, you're right. No, you're 100% right. Okay. Well, and I assume we're getting part 4. And then I would assume Lyra's losing that at that point. Because why would you have her lose the belt if you were just going to have her regain it immediately? And then I would assume, I wouldn't think Becky would want to keep that belt for very long. Again, it's basically just a notch on her belt to say that she did it. Like, it's kind of why she won the NXT Women's Championship, just to like literally say that she did, because she had never won that. So then I would assume you're probably dropping it to, I would say, like a Roxanne Perez, or one of the new, or Stephanie maybe. You know, I don't really know at that point what you do, which is why I think it makes more sense to have Lyra keep it, because, and I want to make this comparison, and I want to make sure I make it very clear. I am not comparing Lyra Valkyria or Roxanne Perez to The Rock or Triple H as wrestlers or performers in their career. I'm not doing that. What I am going to do is compare the situation that they are in that when The Rock and Triple H were both young and up-and-coming wrestlers, and we didn't really know who they were, what they were about, they wrestled each other a lot. They would beat everybody else, and then they'd face each other, and then sometimes The Rock would win, and sometimes Triple H would win, but they would basically only really lose to each other. And what that did was say, hey, this Triple H guy's pretty darn good, because he really only loses to The Rock. And this Rock guy's pretty good, and he really only loses to Triple H. And it elevates both of them at the same time. And I feel like over the last, not even the last 5 years, last 20 years, WWE stays away from that so hard, where they're almost afraid to put two young up-and-coming wrestlers in the ring together, because they're afraid that if one of them loses, they're just going to kill the whole thing for that person. And that's not the case. Like, if you were to put Lyra Valkyria and Roxanne Perez in a feud for the Women's Intercontinental Championship and have them both look outstanding, even if Roxanne Perez, which is what I would do in this situation, beats Lyra Valkyria for that championship, unless you book it stupidly, you're not going to have Lyra look bad. You're going to have Lyra look really good, and then maybe she can even step up to be a main event star. And then eventually when Roxanne Perez loses, your hope is that you do the same thing, and then now they're both world title contenders, and they face each other again, and it just builds and builds and builds. So that's what I would do. That makes more sense to me. And you don't have to put her in a feud with Roxanne immediately. Like, you could have her face like Raquel Rodriguez, or, you know, somebody else on the Raw roster that you know, might make sense before you get there. But I think that makes that's what I would want to see. I'd want to see eventually Roxanne Perez take the belt from Lyra.
Gotcha. All right, and Joe, last word for you here. If you have Becky losing, where would you go with Becky? I think after this match.
So I was thinking about this today. I think the women's division has a big problem, and their big problem is that the men's division between young up and comers and veterans, in the last 5-6 years, there's been a big boom for veterans, whether it's nostalgia, realizing that they're getting older and you start to like them even more because you appreciate their tenure. The Randy Ortons of the world, Cena, Sheamus, Finn Balor, guys that have been around a lot. CM Punk now is on that level. And I'm talking as far back as like 2000. They debuted in like 7, 8, 9, 10, like a long time ago. They have a really good thing going where the veterans are so well liked, and they have an opportunity to elevate young talent, and it's 50-50, right? Some young talent get over really easily, and some don't. You know, the Braun Breakers of the world. You know, like you mentioned, Carmelo is kind of on the opposite side of that equation. So my point is with that is the women's division, all the veterans, so Becky, Charlotte, Natalia, no, they're kind of stagnant. Like, they're in the polar opposite direction that the men's veterans are in, where you just don't really care all that much. Whereas the young women, like the Rhea Ripleys, you know, the kind of that next generation, are beloved. Like, they're the best part of that division. So it's a weird problem that they have where they can't really rely on veterans to help push young talent, because they're not even liked to begin with. If you're not liked to begin with, or you're stagnant, or you're a 50-50 split on fan bases, like, even though Becky's a legend, because, like, whether you like her or not, she's just a legend, she's not liked enough to get someone over. Whereas if it was the equivalent of Sheamus and Carmelo, you could do something with that because Sheamus is so liked and he's so tenured that you could probably get Carmelo over with him. So they're in a weird little spot where they don't have reinforcements. The veterans aren't really doing anything to help make themselves liked, make younger talent liked. So in this situation, if Becky wins, what does she do next? Who cares? Just like it's boring TV. Her promos aren't great. She gets a loud pop because she's a name and she went through the big boom of the women's division in like 2018, 2019. But that was 7 years ago. Like, what have you really done for me since? Like, with Lyra though, if she wins, sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want with her. You could almost instantly make her like Rhea Ripley. So, I guess to answer your question, Dan, I don't know what they do if Becky wins. Who cares? Like, what do you like? You're going to defend the belt 4 times, lose in 3 months, and then it's almost as if this whole thing didn't happen. Like, so they just go through these stagnant little things. I think it's a big problem with their women's division.
Yeah, no, I think it's very interesting. It's a very big wait and see, and the wait and see isn't encouraging, just because of some of the things you said. And the women's division is still being formed. Again, we have some NXT call-ups on both Raw and SmackDown that I think will help it. We have some returning people, so hopefully that will help some things. But yeah, I can kind of see where you're coming from. All right, now we are going to move on to the tag match, and yes, you only see 3 of us now. Joe had to depart during our recording, but he did leave me with who his picks are for the matches, so I'll still mention his picks, but I still have Tyler and Chris here with me, but he had to leave during the recording. But we want to move on next to the tag title match, or sorry, not title match, just a tag match that has titles involved by the players, just not involved in the match itself. Tag match between 2 big heels, Logan Paul, John Cena, and 2 big faces in Cody Rhodes, Jey Uso. Cody is back to a resounding cheer. Thank you very much. I'm glad to hear that he's cheered so heavily as soon as he came back. Saturday Night's Main Event and SmackDown after. All is a little bit better and right in the world, I believe, with him being cheered so heavily. So I'm glad to have it. So we got this match resulting from Saturday Night's Main Event, and now it's on Money in the Bank. Jey is a very, very busy wrestler right now. Maybe too busy, some could argue. We'll see. But we'll get to the match. I'm curious what you guys are thinking of this match. Who's going to win? I actually phrased this question to you as who actually gets the pin over who for this match, for the teams to win here. So, Tyler, I will start with you. John Cena and Logan Paul, and Jey Uso, Cody Rhodes. Who wins the match? Who takes the pin in this tag match?
I believe Cody Rhodes will win this match, and he will be pinning Logan Paul. I think that makes the most sense to me. I don't think they want to see Cody Rhodes get a visible pin on John Cena just yet. Although, spoiler alert, I do think that's coming. So, not at this pay-per-view, but at maybe SummerSlam or sometime in the near future. I don't know. But yeah, I think Cody wins. I think he pins Logan Paul. I also think that John Cena probably just leaves Logan Paul to the Wolves. I don't even think Cena probably. I genuinely don't. I think Cena just walks out at a certain point. He just goes, the heck with it. And then Logan Paul's just like, yeah, okay, I guess I'm dead. I'll be dead, sure. So I think that's probably the way this is going to go. And then God knows what other shenanigans are going to happen from here on out, but that's what I'm going with.
All right. Chris, where are your thoughts landing? Who's winning? Who's taking the pin?
Yeah, so I'm exactly like Tyler here. I don't see Cody taking 2 losses in a row here at all. I think that's a big indicator. And I do truly believe that Logan Paul is the sacrificial lamb of this match, because I don't see. I mean, unless was kind of like thinking about it, and unless we were to get something to do with Gunther or Jay here, unless that was the case, and even then, doubt it. It just doesn't add up to me. Yeah, I see it being Cody, especially Cody getting the pin on Paul here. I not a big fan of this match. I just feel like it's, you mentioned it on your introduction, Dan, but it is a tag match with the two top champions, not defending either belt. It's just a tag match, and this is Cena's final year. And this, to me, feels much more like a throwaway than the R-Truth one, because R-Truth, say what you want, has been building for a while. It just has. I mean, it was kind of a meme, right? This is just kind of like, not even kind of. This is literally thrown together, as in, it was just at the end of a pay-per-view. It was like, okay, now we're doing it cool. There we go. It quite literally was thrown together.
Yep.
I think this does absolutely nothing for nobody. I don't think anybody changes after this match. I don't think anything significant happens. This is the biggest waste of time. I hate it. I think most people hate it. And I don't get why we still have Logan Paul on TV. I get the Prime partnership, sure. But I would argue that Logan, it's that term go away heat, right? And I would argue that Logan's in that category. This is going to be a harsh comparison, but as a UFC fan, I remember back in the day when CM Punk fought in the UFC, nobody in the UFC audience wanted to see CM Punk fight. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to see it. CM Punk was also on the main card of his pay-per-views, of the UFC pay-per-views. Nobody wanted them. They wanted Punk gone. It wasn't even like, oh, we hate him. You know, he's a bad fighter or whatever. It just literally nobody wanted him there. It was like, okay, we could literally live without you. You contribute nothing. So way I view Logan Paul. I get the Prime partnership, I do, but that doesn't necessarily mean he has to be involved. KSI isn't involved. And I'm the same way for Logan. I think it's the biggest throwaway. I hate this match. I don't think this saves anything to do with the 41 main event. I think it makes it only worse. And I think I hate wrestling now.
I mean,
dude,
are you going to
like,
join the train here, Tyler, and say that you hate wrestling just as much as Chris right now?
No, I don't hate wrestling. We're having strong disagreements right now. We're just a little on shaky footing at the moment. But no, it is just refreshing to hear somebody else give these thoughts, because generally I am just on the pod with you, Dan, and as you said already tonight, you are the eternal optimist here, and so you always try to look on the bright side, and I love that about you, and it's wonderful, and I don't ever want you to change, but it is just nice to have some feelings validated every once in a while when I'm just sitting here being like, the world sucks, and you're like, no, it doesn't suck. It's a nice day, the sun's out, and then the little clouds just kind of make it nice and cool. Okay, I get it, but it kind of sucks a little. But it is nice to hear, some validation, and I agree. I didn't say this in my point. I should have. I don't see how this adds to WrestleMania 41 or builds off of it in any way outside of the fact that Cody and John Cena are going to be in the same match. I mean, there's literally nothing, no other factor that is the same. Could we see another Travis Scott appearance? I guess. God, please no.
No.
I hope not. But hey, at this point, listen. Chris already said it multiple times, and I will reiterate. Lately, it is, what is your worst nightmare? Wake up the next day and it happens. If that's your worst nightmare, you at least have to be willing to throw it out there and say that is a possibility that they're going to do that. I said this to Dan. The reported, and from what I heard, internal rumblings, suggestion for this match was not just Cena and Logan versus Cody and Jay. It was Cody, Jay, and Jimmy. So Cody and the Usos versus John Cena, Logan Paul, and Travis Scott. That was the internal rumblings that was going around. And obviously, somewhere along the line, they said no, and they've changed it to this, at least so far. Who the heck knows? But I think it's probably a little too late to change it. But that's what I'd been hearing. And I'm like, oh my God, if I see Travis Scott in the same ring with John Cena before I see CM Punk in the same ring with John Cena on this retirement tour, I'm going to be like a chimpanzee and I'm going to crap in my hand. I'm going to start throwing it at people at a zoo. Like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm going to lose my mind. This is what happens to me.
I have to say that I believe Chris looked a little dead inside there when you brought up the 6-man tag possibility with Travis Scott and Jimmy.
That was making its rounds on Twitter a couple weeks ago.
I get that, but I think Travis has also made WWE mad, so I don't think we're going to see him anymore ever.
I hope you're right, Dan.
I think again, Travis I think Travis was supposed to be like training with Booker and doing stuff like that, and he like balked at that. Wasn't living up to him as a deal, and I think WWE was like, bye. They should have said that after January, but I think Travis Scott kind of, ruined it for himself. From the rumors I've seen.
Wait, are you for real? I didn't hear this till you just said it.
I'd have to go find it again. I'll look for it and send it to you guys later. But I'm almost positive that it seems like Travis has kind of not lived up to his end of the deal, because he was supposed to train with Booker, and he was supposed to do this and that.
Why would he?
Why
would he live up to the deal? He's a gajillionaire. He's like the most famous rapper on planet Earth.
I had never heard of him before.
You've never heard of Travis Scott? That's actually kind of crazy that you've never heard of Travis Scott. It's actually kind of that's.
You never heard about the whole concert incident?
That was him?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Cool.
Yeah. No, I can't tell if that news makes me happy or sad. And the reason why is because it's like happy because I'm like, okay, great. I don't like Travis Scott. I don't think he's probably a good person. I don't care for him. But then it makes me sad because I'm like, wow, that WrestleMania main event, Cena's last main event, actually now meant literally nothing.
Yeah.
Like literally nothing. The best thing you could say is that he sold his soul to The Rock, and The Rock is Hollywood, and Travis Scott's Hollywood, and now it means nothing. Now it actually means nothing. Yeah. And I hate this. I feel like I should be the one balancing you guys. I feel like Tyler's, down here, Dan, you're up here, but I'm like, I can't be that balance in the middle tonight. I'm probably even sinking lower than Tyler.
Chris is crashing out, folks. Chris is completely crashing out.
Oh, I hate that phrase. Oh my word, I hate that phrase. Seriously.
Crash is Chrising out right now.
I'm just getting old. I think I'm just too old. I'm too old for you youngins.
Oh God. Again, I'm gonna say this again because I think it's so important that I reiterate this because it just helps my own sanity at this point.
Sure.
When Dan and I did our booking, I know I said this part already tonight. I said we just put so much thought into that booking to where we treated John Cena's final year like a delicacy. This is the last piece of cake at our wedding, and we're not just going to give it to anybody. Like, it has to be as important as it possibly could to everyone involved. And I just feel like when I was telling people, right, about this booking, including you, Chris. Now, you didn't say what I'm about to say. Other people did. But when I said, hey, I have him facing Gunther at WrestleMania, I didn't get, oh, that's really cool. I would like to see that. I got, why? Why wouldn't you have him face Cody? It's the bigger money match. And my response would always be, because there is so much room for it to go wrong. There is so little margin for error that something is going to be ruined. Either Cody will possibly be ruined, or John Cena's final year may be ruined. And honestly, I would rather have a match that may not make as much money, but that takes that out of it. Babyface John Cena, heel Gunther, boom. Easy. You don't, no matter, and if John Cena loses to Gunther, it doesn't ruin his final year. It just makes sense. Or if John Cena overcomes the odds and it's this amazing thing, then it's wonderful and it doesn't ruin Gunther. You lost to the greatest of all time. It's fine. That's what Gunther's there to do, is to lose to somebody like that, right? So,
Gotcha.
You know, when people said that, it just drove me nuts because I'm like, you guys can't see how bad this could go. And to see just how unbelievably bad it's gone in real life, I just want to sit there and shake them and go, you see, to freaking listen to me next time. You know, just like you just want to shake them and just lose your mind. But anyway, okay, I'm done.
You're fine. I'll get to my pick, and I will mention Joe's pick here too. Joe's be the only one to take the heel side of this tag match. Actually, he picked Cena and Logan. I forgot to actually get him his who's going to pin who here, but you know, he has Cena and Logan winning that match. I'm going with you guys. I believe Cody and Jay are on the winning side, but I feel it makes a little more sense for me for Cody to pin Cena here. I think Jay. I think Jay pinning Logan could go a long way for Jay, but I don't think it's necessary. You know, to me, Logan and Cody are in the same brand, so that finish really doesn't do it for me either. So that's why I go with Cody over Cena. And that would get us back on track to their story. That would give Cody even that more of an oomph to ask for that rematch from Cena, which I think we would get that rematch. You know, that's a rematch they would probably save for Clash at Paris, or right? You know,
Clash in Paris, but yeah,
Clash in Paris. And honestly, now that I'm thinking this through more too, I honestly maybe you guys are probably right here. You know, Cody over Logan, because you probably want to save a one-on-one match between Cena and Cody at SummerSlam, and we have at least 2 more PLEs, maybe 3 more PLEs. I keep track. It's like one every 3 weeks right now. There's at least 2 more PLEs and at least 1 more Saturday night's main event. So hold on to your butts, everybody. We got a lot to still get through here by the end of July. You know, so I mean, maybe it is what you guys are saying. I think we're all in agreement, though. Cody and Jay should win this match. I'm saying Cena takes a pin for that rematch, but now that I'm saying it out loud more to you guys, I'm actually maybe siding more with what you guys pick, but I'll go Cody over Cena here. The last match on the Money in the Bank card is the women's Money in the Bank. I think it's going to be a very interesting, very fun match. The last qualifier was on Raw. Stephanie versus Liv versus Ivy Nile. I thought it was a solid match to open the show. I don't think it surprised anybody that Stephanie won. I think you could have made an argument for Liv, but I don't think anybody's surprised that Stephanie won. You know, she seems to have the rocket strapped to her right now, so you know, it seems like a good pick for her. I will get Joe's pick out of the way first here. He is picking, which I'm assuming is probably the overwhelming favorite here, Rhea Ripley. I'm kind of going a little bit with the men's side. You know, just taking the really big main eventer out of this bunch. So Joe went with Rhea Ripley. Chris, I'll come to you first here. Who is your pick to win the women's Money in the Bank?
Well, I wish I could tell you it was Liv, but she's not even in the match. So
you were double disappointed tonight, weren't you?
It's been a bad night for me, man. It's been a pretty bad night. But I would I'm gonna have to go Rhea here. It's basic, I know, but she's such a huge star, and it's like, you know, you give her that briefcase, you can run with it, you know, gives her something to do, you know. I'd say Rhea here. As much as I would like to say Liv, but I can't. And it's too early for someone like, you know, Stephanie. So Rhea.
Yeah, no, I think it's Rhea's. I gotta imagine she's overwhelming favorite. I feel I'm kind of with you there. I feel like if Liv's in this match too, you know, you could really argue for either of them. I think or more of even with Alexa with the 3 of them too. It's like, makes it harder to pick if you have all three of them in there. Tyler, what are you thinking for the women's Money in the Bank briefcase?
So I obviously I do in a lot of ways agree with what Joe and Chris had to say on Rhea. I think that she probably is the overwhelming favorite. She's clearly the main event star in this match, the one that I think the kind of general consensus kind of what's the word? The not the hardcore fan base, but like the common fan base that just kind of there. Would probably take, and it makes sense. I think Chris obviously made a great point. It gives her something to do. She could obviously, go to SmackDown and fight Tiffany Stratton. I think that would be fun. She could stay on Raw and do whatever she wants to do there. But I am not going to go that route. Normally it is too early for somebody like Stephanie, but not this time. I'm going Stephanie Vaquer here. I don't think I can possibly underestimate how much Stephanie is looked at as the future of this industry within the WWE, within the NXT brand, from the fan base, within the company. Everybody is saying Stephanie Vaquer is the one that's going to lead the charge. I think initially they thought that it was going to be Julia, and I would have probably put my money on Julia as well. But then they both arrived right around the same time within a couple of weeks, and it was like Stephanie was here and Julia was here, and Julia never recovered because Stephanie just was so popular, so over right away. And I just think that all Stephanie Vaquer has done since she arrived in the company was completely break the mold. She came in, nothing changed about her. Not her music, not her character, not her promos, not her matches, not her nothing. And she, first women's double champ, first male or female to defend both championships successfully back-to-back on the same night in the history of the business. Nobody's ever done that before. And I think she's going to be the first person to win Money in the Bank within 2 matches of being called up. And I wouldn't be surprised if she wins that world title immediately. Like, she cashes in that night. She cashes in the Monday Night Raw after. She cashes in at SummerSlam. And she breaks the record for the shortest time between a debut and a world title win, breaking Finn Balor's record. Like, that is how highly this company believes in Stephanie Vaquer. That's how highly I believe in Stephanie Vaquer. And I think we all better start getting used to it, because that woman is going to be around for a long, long time. And assuming she stays healthy, she's going to run this industry the way Rhea Ripley's run this industry for the last 3 years. And you can book that right now. And again, I'm going to say this. I 100% agree with everything that Joe said and what Chris said about Rhea Ripley. She's the overwhelming favorite. And if they go with Rhea Ripley, I wouldn't be surprised. And it might be too early for Stephanie. I just don't think Stephanie Vaquer cares very much that everybody says it's too early, because they said that you could never have a women's double champ and make it work. They said that a double champ would never be able to defend their championship twice in one night. And Stephanie did all that already. So I think she's going to break the mold again.
Oh, gotcha. Chris, do you have any thoughts there before I give my pick? Or
rocket ship to the top, I guess, man.
Yeah.
I'm gonna bet Rhea, but if this happens, Tyler, then I'll buy you a drink.
That sucks. I don't drink, but I appreciate it.
I'll buy you a mocktail.
Okay. I don't pretend to drink. I don't know what the difference is.
I'll buy you a Coke. I'll buy you a water, man. I'll buy you a t-shirt.
I don't pretend to drink. I don't know how that works, but okay.
Never had a mocktail before?
I have.
Okay, I was about to say.
I have had them previously in my life, yes, but like I don't just walk around like pretending to have a pina colada at that. Like, I don't like at what point in my life is that going to be of use to me? I don't know.
I view it more as like specialty drinks rather than
Fair
like
enough.
pretending to drink. Like I don't really care for mocktails that taste like alcohol. I just like when they're like specialty drinks.
Yeah.
You know.
Fair enough.
Yeah, specialty drinks. That's where I'm going there too.
I'm sure there are other uses for mocktails other than just pretending to drink. I obviously know that. I just thought it sounded funny, so I just went with it.
I got to make my pick. I kind of more in the same, kind of in a similar vein to Tyler here, but not the same pick. I look at Rhea and Alexa. They're the former champs. You know, they've held a briefcase. Well, Alexa's held the briefcase and has won before. They've held belts before. I think they're two of the easy picks. Naomi, I honestly think I don't know why she's in this, but I kind of rather, I guess, see her than Jade lose a match like this, I guess. But like there's my hot take for the night. It's like, Naomi's in this? Really? Okay. Sure. I guess
that's a popular pick online, is for her to actually win the thing.
I mean, I could, I could see her as a dark horse, I guess, but you have 3 newcomers to the main roster. Now, I know Roxanne is not really a newcomer because she's been around in NXT forever, but she's a newcomer to the main roster. Yep. So to me, it's like when you got her and Julia and Stephanie all in the match, it's like, so it's kind of like the old versus the new in a way. I think Julia might have honestly been my pick a couple weeks ago, just because Stephanie wasn't on the main roster. Then, Tyler, you and I texted about this. Probably one of the biggest shockers in very recent memory, if not the last few years, of Stephanie all of a sudden just losing the title on an NXT, not even at Battleground, but we know Jordan Grace is going to be in the main roster now too. But, the shocker of her losing the title is kind of like, well, she has to be promoted to the roster at this point. What are you doing? And she was. Thank
God, because otherwise I literally would have started.
I think we all would have stopped roster wrestling.
I've been like, I'm out. I don't understand anything anymore.
Yeah. And, so Julia would probably be my pick a couple weeks ago, but Stephanie, I don't know. To me, it's like I'm having a hard time pick between, honestly, Stephanie and Roxanne. But to me, Roxanne's nicknamed the Prodigy for a reason. So I feel like this would be a great way to showcase the Prodigy. This is another person we want to attach a rocket ship to, another young up-and-comer. She's the first NXTer to make the roster of the recent call-ups, which I'm also really big side note. I'm hoping we're doing all these call-ups and signees and everything because they decided to forego the drafts finally. We're just doing call-ups and trades and stuff. No more drafts. Anyway, but to me, I feel like it'd just be a fun, another fun layer to add to the whole Judgment Day eventual implosion in 2028, that we're gonna, that we'll eventually get to keep on teasing. So that's where I'm going with, let's add fuel to the fire. That meme is like, oh, everything's fine, but fire's going around. Let's add fuel to the fire. Let's just see chaos. I want to see chaos. So I feel like Stephanie is a very good pick. I think it's touched too early. And so I'm going with the Prodigy of Roxanne pulling down the briefcase for the women's Money in the Bank.
Dan, I love that pick. I think I said to you in our last week's podcast, before we knew anything about the Stephanie stuff getting called up, Roxanne was my pick as well, for all the same reasons that you just listed out. And then Stephanie got called up. Now Roxanne has no chance, because that is what happened when Stephanie Vaquer got called up.
Yeah.
No one else has a chance anymore. That's what this means.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like anybody, I feel like Alexa was an early pick, then Rhea got put in, so she became the overwhelming pick. Julia, I think, was an interesting thought to be a pick, but yeah, I feel like everything could have probably got thrown out when Stephanie, and maybe that's where they're like, we see how good she is. I'm hoping Stephanie gets more, maybe put the IC title on her really quick, let her hold a title before you put a briefcase or the main title on her. But it wouldn't shock me. I'll put it that way. But I'm going with Roxanne here. I think more or less just to create even more chaos within Judgment Day with that. So we'll see what happens. So I believe those are the only 4 matches that we have. I don't believe anything else has gotten announced. The ladder matches should take long, so I mean, I don't think they really have any room for any more matches. And they usually don't do too many outro matches between when you have the gimmick PLEs, for lack of a better term here. So, but yeah, so that wraps it up for us all. We'll have a kind of we'll keep track of seeing who, how good we pick this PLE, how close we are in some of these things. I appreciate Joe joining us earlier today. Thank you, Tyler and Chris, for just being a part of this. As always, it's always a fun time. I'm glad we've gotten to do some separate podcasts together, and these joined ones are always a lot of fun too. So hope everybody watching really enjoyed this as well. Would love to see all your picks for these matches. Please leave those in the comments below. Please give the video a like. Please share this with your friends. We have a little bit of time before the PLE, so please, let us know where we're wrong, where we might be right. I would appreciate any thoughts at all on the podcast. Again, thank you everybody for joining me. We will have some more stuff coming up as months go on. Got a lot of wrestling stuff going on in the next couple months as we build a SummerSlam after Money in the Bank here. So thanks everybody for watching, and you guys all have a great day.